Don't go near Hogan. Ding ding! Yes! He is the hero. Yeah,
My
he
favourite.
is. Your favourite. In that story, inside the arena, even with all the kayfabe, he was the good, wholesome guy. Hello, Reformed Mythologist Nate Morganlock here with another episode of Behold the Comments. We're here to chat about the comments underneath Reformed Mythologist videos. I am joined, as ever, by Eleanor of Lothlorien. Hello, Eleanor.
Hello, good afternoon.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
I must say, you're looking a little moody.
I hate puns.
Well, you love cows. So
do.
it's a good combo. Well, we're going to kick off with comments underneath the Why Wrestling Matters More Than You Think video. It's pure storytelling. Did you have any particular favourites underneath this video that you want to dive into?
I have one from Chains What Apple. Even though I've never been into pro wrestling or UFC, I really appreciate this video and the emphasis on story, because when I talk with my friends and family about the stories that are being told now, they generally think it's entertainment and doesn't really matter that much. I thought that was a great comment because it's what we're all about at the Reformed Mythologist.
That's right. Trying to get underneath the stories and see what's really going on. And it really doesn't matter to us what those stories are. So whether it's wrestling, or whether it's Viking, Norse mythology stuff, or even Moana too. We'll get to all those things later on. One that I want to look at is from A.D. Greenfield. What an absolutely lovely video. So glad the algorithm brought it into my feed. I've worked as a writer/producer in the wrestling business for about 20 years now, and I'm sharing this round to a bunch of friends and colleagues. Really excellent work. If you haven't seen them already, think you'd get a kick out of watching Super Eye Patch Wolf's excellent couple of long-form video essays on wrestling. You guys are of like minds. Well, A.D. Greenfield, thank you very much for that. I wonder what part of the wrestling business he was involved with.
Do you think he knows The Undertaker?
You'd like it if you knew The Undertaker,
I
wouldn't you?
would.
Prior to making this video, you didn't know about The Undertaker, did you?
I knew nothing about wrestling prior to this video.
And yet, over the weeks and months of editing this thing together, you've learned to love it, haven't you?
Yeah, it's a love-hate relationship.
Well, in fact, we've also got our own wrestling themed cups for today from Speak Life. Can you guess who this is supposed to represent?
Hulk Hogan.
Hulk Hogan, that's right. Hulkamania running wild. And then yours is
The Undertaker.
The Undertaker, all black in his Dead Man era. So the early Undertaker was a bit more grey and a little bit more purple. I'd be fascinated to know what part of the wrestling business for 20 years. It might just be like the UK style wrestling, which is all a bit more sort of pantomime.
Maybe.
Just lower budgets, I think that's probably.
I'm just really glad that people like A.D. Greenfield are seeing the video, and I'm amazed that it's got now over 3,000 views.
Look, if it didn't get 3,000 views, I would have been a bit disappointed because of the sheer amount of love that was poured into making it.
Love and frustration in equal measures.
That's right. Here was a good one from @ShockandAwful. Unfortunately, in both wrestling and religion, the ones presented as hero often aren't in reality. That was interesting because I put a couple of different thumbnail options onto my Facebook. And so I said, which option would people go for? Overwhelmingly, most people went for Hogan.
Wrong choice.
Well, this was interesting because you didn't know much about wrestling, but the people who really knew about wrestling, they were like, oh no, Hogan's really problematic because of his private life and he's been involved in all sorts of scandals and there's issues about how much he just lies when he's in interviews and all this sort of stuff. There's also loads of stories about his relationship with Christian faith. Quite recently, I think he's been baptized, and of course now he's associated with Trump and all this kind of stuff. So a lot of people are like, don't go near Hogan for this. My rationale was that because I was going for Hulk Hogan, the character, and the way that he was represented in the WWF, and then his heel turn in WCW, and then when he comes back to the WWE, he's still very much a face, right? He's a good guy, whereas in his background, there's a lot of complicated stuff going on. But when he power slams and then does the leg drop and then does the pin of Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3, he is the hero. Now, we can argue about whether he ought to be, but in that story, inside the arena, even with all the kayfabe, he was the good, wholesome guy.
Yeah.
So that's why we have opted for him. Terry Bollea, Hulk Hogan's real name, he as an individual is quite complicated. I mean, isn't everyone? And as Shock and Awful says, unfortunately, in wrestling and religion, there is this question of the presenting thing and then what's really going on behind the scenes. And obviously, it's a tragedy when Christian ministers are presented as one thing and then actually people find out there's something else.
My argument for the Undertaker thumbnail was just the Undertaker looks cooler.
He does look pretty cool. He does look
In fact,
pretty
you know what? Let's put up the thumbnail that we chose and the thumbnail that I wanted.
Okay.
And see what people have to say in the comments.
Yeah,
about
here are the
which one is
thumbnails
better.
that you would have seen in an alternate universe. So here they are. Now, I don't know which one you would have picked and what reasons you would have picked those different thumbnails. But I quite like the fact this bright yellow and red kind of went with our branding, with the pure storytelling. I think that was a nice kind of link up and that rip in the shirt thing. Anyway, another comment from @mostly-not-working4112. Do you know about Paul Vanderklay and this little corner? They talk about kayfabe a lot. And I said, I know of Paul Vanderklay. In fact, we included him in a video called the Attention Economy video. He features at the end talking about the way in which we're undergoing the most aggressive form of human attention harvesting the world has ever seen, and that people are feeling what he calls nihilism-induced depression. So he was quite interesting on that. But then we had a couple of people mention videos that he did with someone named Guy, thank you, @Strange Theology, who's a wrestler, and they explored wrestling as a performative sport. Professional wrestler and cognitive science. So, yeah, I need to check out that video because it sounds like it'd be very, very interesting. Right, let me give you now Eleanor's wrestling quiz.
Oh, no.
You've got to be tested. You're going to be tested on your wrestling knowledge.
I hope it's not like specific details. I can't
No.
do specific
Literally,
details.
all I'm going to do is I'm going to show you 10 pictures of wrestlers.
Okay.
And I want you to tell me who they are.
Okay.
It's literally it. It's just recognize, give me the name of the wrestlers. Now, I think every single one of them appears at some point in our wrestling video.
Okay.
Not necessarily for as long. Most of them, I think, are going to be quite easy. All right. Number 1. Who is this?
That's the Ultimate Warrior.
Ding, ding. Yes, it is the Ultimate Warrior. I think he's possibly the best aesthetic for any of the wrestlers. It just looks so kind of crazy, wild. The face paint is really cool, and the colors are all neon. Right, who's up next?
Is that Macho Man?
That is correct. Macho Man Randy Savage also favoured the bright colours. He's very good with that. Macho Man Randy Savage. Ooh, yeah. Okay, who's this?
That's Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's right, Austin 316. Yes, Stone Cold Steve Austin. I knew that you'd know who he was.
That is Hulk Hogan. Why did
Hulk Hogan. He nearly got called
Oh, yeah.
Hank Hogan. Maybe they opted for Hank Hogan at one point and then they changed it. But yes,
Hulk
there is
Hogan.
Hulk Hogan. All right, next one.
That is John Cena.
John-
Du-du-du-du.
Very good. Did you know about him before you
Yeah.
made the video? Okay.
He's a meme, so.
He's got the whole "you can't see me" meme as well. Okay, so there we go. So that's breaking out of the kind of 80s, 90s wrestlers, but slightly newer guy. John Cena.
That's The Undertaker.
Yeah,
My
he
favourite.
is. Your favourite, The Undertaker. Okay,
That's Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
that's correct. The Rock. Okay, they haven't been very hard so far. You've got all of them. There we go, number 8. Now, he's the most recent wrestler we've had in the quiz so far. He does appear, I think, only very briefly. And I don't think we name check him necessarily.
I don't think I know this one.
Okay. So this is Roman Reigns.
Okay. Where was he in the video?
So I think he appears in the... It's in one of the clips from the Mr. McMahon thing,
Oh,
I think. I think he
Okay.
appears in that. But, yeah, that would be a very tricky one. Roman Reigns.
Jake the Snake.
That's right, Jake the Snake Roberts, and we include that wonderful bit when he sets the Ultimate Warrior up
Yeah.
to be bitten by a snake. Yeah, he was quite kind of fun. Seemed like a crazy guy behind the scenes as well.
That's Hitman Hart.
That is the Hitman Hart. Bret the Hitman Hart. He was one of my favorites. He was just so cool.
He does look very cool.
And he's the one who gets referenced by Jordan Peterson a lot. Well done. You got 9 out of 10, and one of them might not have really been in the video. How many of those do you think you would have got before you started editing this video?
I think I could have probably done The Rock and John Cena.
Yeah.
And I don't think I could.
And you wouldn't have even recognised Hulk Hogan before that?
No. I wouldn't have known his name.
Okay. Well done. I'm very proud of you. I'm pleased, and I hope you feel pleased that you've been involved in this great wrestling conversation.
I think I did enjoy it in the end, even if to start with I kept turning to you and going, Nate, why are you making me do this?
Now, the other thing I want to show you is, in fact, I'm going to get you to look it up and then we'll watch it together.
Okay.
Because one of the things we included was not just a whole bit about wrestling, but we talked about UFC and we talked about boxing and we talked about politics and social media and everything. And one of the things I talked about was the promo for the first Tyson Fury versus Usyk boxing match.
Yeah.
And the promo was amazing.
It was.
Well, they're fighting again December the 21st this year, again in Riyadh. So these people with way more money than sense have decided to make another funny promo.
What is it you would like to talk about?
Ah, you're awake, Mr. Fury.
Welcome back. I say.
Voldemort style.
Do you miss me?
Think of me. I'm gonna punch your face in.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
And feel. And let it feel. It's pretty wild.
It's pretty good.
It makes you want to make another video now, right? Because you've got to take that one down. Which one do you prefer? Do you prefer the one for the original fight or this one?
They're very different vibes.
Yeah.
I think the other one felt more epic.
Yeah.
But this one has a certain, I think, especially because I enjoy horror, and it's got a very horror feel to it.
Yeah.
It's quite clever in that way.
Yeah. The original one, I think, made the point we were trying to make a bit more, which is like the world is this mythological place and the heavens are sort of wrought with this story of good versus evil and conflict. Whereas this one's a little bit more about just how the fight is affecting these two guys. And it's funnier as well, just the whole kind of seeing them in the chicken sausage or whatever. It's just totally stupid. This is what's available to you when you take stories seriously. Well, now on Behold the Comments from the Reformed Mythologist channel, we've got something very, very special indeed. You have an opportunity to win your very own Speak Life coffee cup with whichever combination you would prefer. And what do people have to do in order to get their very own Speak Life coffee cup from the Reformed Mythologist channel?
Well, if you have seen the wrestling video that we've been talking about, there is a movie which we took a few frames from at the beginning and at the end of that video.
Yes, nice little top and tail.
Yeah.
Make you feel like you've come home.
Where Nate was watching wrestling as a child.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you can guess what movie those frames are from, put it down in the comments, and then in the next Behold the Comments video, we will announce a winner if one of you has managed to guess where that's from. But please don't give your details away to anyone in the comments. We don't want anyone getting scammed.
Is that GDPR compliant?
I think so.
Okay, good stuff. That's what we call engagement with the audience, apparently. Okay, let's take a little look at the comments underneath the next video, which is for Moana 2 reaction video. My favourite comment under this was from friend of the show, Christian Bensel, who said, interesting insight into the myths which are or aren't written down. Thank you. So I said, canon is such a big issue. I'm planning a video on the challenges of canonicity in pop culture. What's your thoughts on canonicity?
Is that a word?
Yeah, it's a word.
Is it a word because you decided it was a word?
No, I've definitely heard people use that word before.
Okay.
I came across the idea of canonicity largely in terms of biblical studies and looking at how the 66 different texts of the Bible get compiled.
Yeah. Whereas I came across canon in looking at fan studies when I was doing a film and television production degree.
The approved law, the bounds of the story, and outside of this you can't go. So the real expert on this stuff is a guy named Michael J. Kruger, and one of the texts I had to read when I was at seminary was a book of his called Canon Revisited. So if you're particularly interested in issues around the biblical canon, then please do go and read that book. It's excellent. But the reason why I wanted to talk about that was because when we're looking at the story of Maui, that is a very plastic, fluid myth, really. And so you've got different versions of Maui myths on different islands in the South Pacific. So it's quite difficult to pin down exactly what he did or did not do. Whereas when the Christian gospel comes to those islands, they've got a very clear understanding of, okay, these are the stories of Jesus which have been revealed to us and which have taken place. So this is now the canon of written scripture. And if you've just got an oral tradition, well, every time you tell the story, you can add a little bit in or leave a little bit out, and you see how the audience responds, and you might emphasize certain things or de-emphasize certain things if it's a less interesting part of the story. Whereas the very act of separating the story from the person telling the story, creating a text of some type, whether that's video or film or whatever it might be, suddenly raises the question of what are the bounds of this story? What is or is not part of this myth?
I have an interesting one from KJB. I assume that means King James Bible. Christian.
Okay.
Moana 2 is New Age Antichrist allegory. God is the bad guy who separated the nations in the Tower of Babel. He suppressed man's knowledge and divinity when he flooded the earth. The solution to all our problems is to return to Babel and realize we are God. This ain't Chronicles of Narnia. These are not Christian allegories. If there's any similarity to Christianity, it is because Satan is coming in the name of Christ.
That is a really interesting take on the film. I quite like that. The heart of the Moana 2 story is the idea that the peoples of the world have been separated out, and so Moana is going to work to pull up this island from the bottom of the sea along with Maui, and that now once again the nations can be gathered. So it's fascinating to say, oh, there's a parallel there with the Tower of Babel, the city, and then the fact the Lord brings that down to the ground and confuses the language and that people are separated out. What I would say is that wonderfully, whenever a Christian is thinking about the Tower of Babel, they have to go to Acts 2 and Pentecost, because you've got to see the reversal of the work of Babel happens when the Spirit comes at Pentecost, because Christ has ascended and seated at the right hand of the Father, and so the Spirit is poured out on him as the ascendant Lord who's done the work of the second Adam. He is then the one who pours out his Spirit upon his church, and then they are gifted to speak in the different languages so that they can proclaim the gospel, the completed work of what God has done by coming down. So that is an angle that I really like on Moana 2, actually. I had a conversation with a new best friend. Is he a new best friend? Yeah, let's call him my new best friend. S.D. Smith, the writer of the Green Ember saga books about rabbits with swords. Would you like to see a little clip from that interview?
I would.
Here's our conversation. We talked about all sorts of different things, including the magic of storytelling. Powerful stuff, this storytelling thing, isn't it?
I'm into it. I'm for it. Nothing's made me love who and what I ought to love the way the Lord of the Rings did. People often think, oh, you're like the rabbit guy, so you know all about rabbits and you're like a rabbit wrangler or whatever. And that's not true at all. I don't know anything about rabbits. We are meaning-seeking creatures. That's how we're made. And so I think stories touch us. They inform us.
We can't help but think in terms of story.
The beautiful things aren't given birth to without significant pain. I really, really believe that. All being quiet for a moment and them saying, Daddy, you gotta write this down. We won before anybody else heard of the story.
So that video came out a couple of days ago, so you can go watch it on the channel now.
If you haven't seen it already. Okay, let us get on with what you've been watching.
We should have a jingle for that.
We should. So what you been watching, Eleanor?
How about that Great British Bake Off final? Have you seen it?
I have. And I was a bit sad because I wanted Nelly to win all the way through.
Yeah, Nelly was great.
But then there was great rejoicing in our house because the Welsh lady won.
Georgie.
And there's a Welsh lady in our house as well. My wife.
My mum and I were messaging throughout the final.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whenever Georgie did anything wrong, we were like, no, Georgie, you need to win.
Georgie or Dylan.
I was going to be very upset if Christiane won.
The guy's got some bacon chops, but
his final showstopper was so ugly, and he had no story behind it.
Well, they always have a story behind their cakes, don't they?
You say that. The other two had stories behind their cakes, and when they said, Christiane, tell us more about your cake, he just told them about the flavours and said nothing about the story. Why did you think this should be your last bake? What you been watching?
Well, I have taken the advice of literally dozens of people who've commented, and all of these people have been saying, I think you should watch the Vinland Saga. At W.O. McAuliffe said, very thoughtful analysis. This was under the Moana video. Really interesting to learn about the Christian parallels in Moana too, especially the details about the film's climax. I first found this channel from your review of Twilight of the Gods in my recommendations, although I've never seen the series and I've been enjoying your content since. Could I request an analysis of the 2 seasons of the anime series Vinland Saga? It's a historical fiction story that incorporates elements of the actual history of the Vikings and Christianity in England and Scandinavia around 1000 AD. Now, it's 23 episodes for the first season, I think, and I think it's probably about the same for the second one. So it's quite a thing to be like, oh, I'll watch all of this and then do a video on it. But what I thought I could do is, having watched these first 4 episodes, I think there's some really interesting stuff in there, so I think it'd be cool to do a video on that. And then we'll see.
We might
because
come back to it.
I'm pretty certain I'll watch the rest of it. It's the first thing I've watched in a long time where I've got to the end of an episode and I'll be like, I'm going to watch another one of these now. Wait for the video. It'll be coming out soon.
I wanted to shout out Crocker Dalek from Behold the Comments episode 4 for saying, yes, I love frosted shreddies, just because I'm glad that someone else agrees with me.
Someone else shares your particular cereal love. One more comment I have to go to. This is under a video which is now about 18 months old. Reaction, Lewis Capaldi, Glastonbury 2023. Michael Karma 1 has said, what the heck did I just watch? Content is strangely amazing. Not like channels I've seen before. 10 out of 10.
That's the ideal reaction to any of the Reformed Mythologist videos, really, isn't it?
People shaking their heads but saying it's 10 out of 10. Strangely amazing. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Please do remember that media consumption is optional. You are under no obligation to watch any Reformed Mythologist content. I've been Reformed Mythologist Nate Morgan Locke. I'm glad you were here.